Hello, I'm Clark Farley.
And I'm Denise Fasaro, and this is blah, 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 blah. We have an expert that is, I don't know what this is. This is the Coastal New England Real Estate Team 20-minute real estate briefing.
Oh, so I'm not sitting in a dentist's office.
No. And this week we have an expert who we hope you never need him. Well, there are some things he does that you might want to use him for. But before we get into that, and it's Ryan Mason from ServiceMaster by Mason.
You're Denise.
And I'm Denise, and you're Clark. We said that already. Before we get into that, we are live from Randall Realtors, as I said, and we are here to share our insights and experiences, tips and tactics acquired over quite a few years. Our goal, help you become a better buyer and a skilled seller. Remember to hit subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, and like us if you're watching us on Facebook. Please share. We love you to share us on all of those platforms. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. And on Instagram, we do a weekly Where in South County, actually bi-weekly. Where in South County are we, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we do.
What's the matter with you? Why are you laughing at me?
No.
Because I have a lot of energy today?
Yeah.
All right. So share, tell your friends about us. And now it's your turn to talk.
It's funny. We work well together because Denise tends to have the energy and I'm the serene one. But sometimes that happens. And so we look to the viewers to let us know that you all know this is the 20-minute real estate briefing. And I used to go into a long thing about the whys. Did we do this? And I still ask myself that question. But as Denise mentioned, we've been doing guests lately, expert guests. As regular viewers know, we're big advocates of, as a buyer and even a seller, to assemble a team. And we've had mortgage people on and other experts. Now we're branching out a little bit tonight, which is kind of cool, because this is a person that you may need, as Denise, right?
Yeah.
Denise alluded to in her intro that very often it's the kind of work that you don't want to have done, but it's part of the knowing, having experts. Heck, it's not even so much that you call somebody to say, hey, do this, as much as, hey, ask the question. Well,
I think, too, one of the big things is one of the things we promote the most is that we are professionals and we know our job. And that's why you should have professionals help you buy a house, because it's not something you do every day. And you should have a professional mortgage person, a professional home inspector. And if you need the services that ServiceMaster provides, they are professionals and they do, this is what they know.
And then the big thing about what we always talk about here is that, you get yourself a team because, like I said, it isn't so much that you have to have them do stuff, but it's somebody you can pick up the phone and say, hey, Brian, what can I do about this? Or do I need to do that?
Right, exactly. And that's why we want to bring people like this on the show so that we can reduce your stress when something happens. Stress. When something happens, and that's one of our goals, as well as telling you about being, having professionals on your side, is that if you're prepared, you have less stress. Okay. You will not be stress-free, but you will have less stress if you're prepared.
Speaking of stress, why don't you introduce our guest?
Okay, so we are going to introduce Ryan Mason from ServiceMaster by Mason. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, guys. Denise, Clark, thanks for having me. This is great.
Certainly.
So Clark wants to know, he said, correct him if he's wrong.
Sure.
Aren't insurance companies the one that contact you first when somebody's house is flooded or, God forbid, has fire damage?
No, a lot of times it's the homeowner or your local insurance agent that, or a friend of the family, somebody who's addressed it before and has had contact with us, will recommend them giving us a call, either to provide 24-hour emergency service and or, just ask some questions. Hey, what do I do if you can't get out there right away? Or, we have certain special situations going on. How can we help?
That's good. Yeah. So there's more that you do, though, than just in an emergency where an insurance company or someone would be helping.
Most definitely. And I have my note card here because there's a long list. So if you give me a second. So obviously, I don't want to say obviously, but we deal with fire losses, smoke and odor damage, water damage, mold remediation, odor removal. Unfortunately, we have to deal with trauma cleanups, bloodborne pathogens, biohazard cleanup. We address pack outs and content cleaning. We deal with carpet and floor care, upholstery cleaning, wood care, so your hardwood floors, post-construction cleanup. So if you've gone through, building a house or doing any type of, making your house look pretty again, there's dust all over the place, we can help with that. Tile and grout cleaning, and then duct cleaning as well. And we've added a few pieces into our repertoire in the last couple of years, as I'm an indoor environmental professional, so able to take air sampling for microbial concerns, so mold issues, and also lead and asbestos testing, if required.
Full menu then of cleaning and mitigation kind of services.
Yep, you got it.
And I know that we've used Ryan's company when I've had houses that have had mold. We found mold in the attic, because that's a place that people don't typically go up to that often, maybe put the Christmas decorations up or something. But if you've had a leak for a lot of years, you may have mold up there. And he's actually kept a couple of deals together for me where they've been able to mitigate the mold situation. So in real estate, it is good for us to have, professionals that can help with those kind of things.
Good point. And then Ryan and I were touching on it briefly before we started, was the idea that the people out here watching will either be buyers or sellers, and there's some real estate agents, and having an expert in your field is totally valuable, just because it isn't, it's the idea of picking up the phone and saying, hey, here's the situation, what do you recommend? Yeah,
because, when people are doing inspections and they come across something like that, you want to know how you can take care of it, if you can take care of it.
Yeah. In fact, full disclosure here, we do a script ahead of each of these 20-minute briefings, even though you may not tell. And I had my first question actually comes from real life. A neighbor had well line split while he was at work. And 2 days later, he had the guys coming in and cutting out sheetrock and such. So my question to you, Ryan, would be, if a person finds themselves in a situation with 2 inches of water on the basement, are there things that they can do before you guys show up? Or, in other words, stopgap measures or something to lessen the damage?
Or is there things they shouldn't do?
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, so knowing where, and we provide these little tags, and guys will drop some off to your office for your buyers and sellers. But knowing where your water shutoff is a big deal, because if your water main splits inside the house, you have the opportunity to shut it off at the main and prevent further damage. But if you're already dealing with 2 inches of water, some people have shot backs in their lower level or available to them, or little skim pumps. We went through Hurricane Sandy, and I think everybody ended up getting a little skim pump to pump water out of the basement. So having something like that available, as an emergency kit would be great to have, because and then you want to get, if it's a laundry room, you want to get all the laundry up and out. You want to remove as much moisture from the space as humanly possible, prior to a restoration service coming to give you a hand. Documentation is huge as well, because you want to photograph what's going on, because if it's an insurance claim, they're going to want documentation on, the source, how it happened, and how large of a area has been affected. And that helps us too. You can easily shoot us an email with photos or text us, photographs, so we have a better idea of what's going on in the property.
So I don't know if everyone even would know that is something that the insurance would cover if you're, well backed up, if the pipe broke or if your town pipe broke.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if I had mentioned it. The neighbor is in Hopkinton, and it was a well, so as long as he paid his electric bill, he would have
kept going.
Correct. Yeah, water forever.
Yeah.
But again, they came in, and even from outside, I've seen that kind of work done. They were ending up cutting off 3 feet of the interior finished walls and basement and all.
Yeah,
like that.
Clark, normally after sheetrock sits in wet, in a wet environment for over 48 hours, the potential of mold growing is substantially higher. So there are practices where you can save sheetrock if you can get to it in a quick enough time to start the remediation process or mitigation process. But after 2 days, that material
wicks up, doesn't it?
Correct. Yep. Just like a sponge, you stick a corner of a sponge in the water, and it expands, and it will hold until gravity pulls it back down. So, unless you have a split in your sheetrock, if it's laid 4 feet, horizontally, it'll wick all the way up to that 4 foot point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember, and this is a beautiful segue. Years and years ago, I had a summer rental, and I was checking on it in the cold. It was, I don't remember the year, but it was a year that everybody had frozen pipes.
Yep.
And I went in just to check on it, and sure enough, there was most of them that year were outside pipes that somehow took a corner outside of the insulation. Nobody knew about it, but I took all the towels I could find in the bathroom.
Yeah,
figuring that would cost less than hardwood floors. They were catching the water.
Yeah.
The goal is water removal. You want to get that moisture wicked up or removed from that area as quickly as possible, so it doesn't get a chance to penetrate into that material. Hopefully preventing further damage.
Any particular caveats on electricity and those kinds of things? I recall, I probably shouldn't say this on the air, having a bank property that had probably 6 inches of water in the basement. It was an empty house. And somebody suggested I go check the circuit breaker. And I said, no.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like a good idea to be standing in 6 inches of water turning off circuit breakers. But in general, it's a good idea not to touch. Yeah,
stay away from electrical, no question. In most basements, they're your electrical outlets are above your 6 inch mark. And in most home, if you look around your office, you'll see there's a certain level that they get set at. So if water is past that and the breaker has not popped, then you do not go down there. You either have National Grid come and pull the globe, your power from the exterior, or you have an electrician come in, make sure everything's set. But yeah, definitely you're not wading through water to check a panel box, or if you have water pouring through a panel box, you get out, because it's definitely a fire hazard on top of shock.
Yeah.
What about your furnace, Ryan? What can you do to protect your furnace if you've got a couple inches of water in there? I mean, obviously you've got to get away from it, but should you be shutting it off? What should you be doing about that?
Yeah, so the furnace, you should have an emergency shut off at the top of the stairs. That's code in most areas, Rhode Island and Connecticut. So you're going to want to shut that off to prevent moisture and water from wicking through. And most boiler boxes are sitting 4 or 5 inches above the concrete floor. You just have your box surrounding. But in most cases, unless you're in dire straits of the house freezing or injury to people, then you should shut that off and then have that water removed quickly and get the drying process going.
So going back to the summer beach house thing. So I know one of the things that we have experienced a lot is our people that, close their house up for the summer, they've drained their pipes, everything's great. But when they go to open it up, it's musty. It's down here, it's damp. What can people do for themselves to get rid of that musty, clammy feeling that you get inside these beach houses?
Other than rip out all the homosoap.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, to keep that musty odor away, conditioning the air is the best thing you can do. So I know when you're draining the pipes, you're just setting and forgetting. You're not heating the house at all. So using a dehumidifier is kind of a moot point at that time. But when you come to open it up, you want to create ventilation. You want to if you're going to do it yourself, you just want to vent the space. So you're purging the bad air and allowing fresh air to come through. And then as soon as you're ready to start occupying the space, you're either putting in your AC, window units, or running a dehumidifier to pull out that extra moisture that's been trapped in the building material, over that winter break.
Yeah, given where we are, do you find a big portion of your business coming out of the beach communities?
Most definitely. Yep. So second, third homes, seasonal cottages. If they're, I always recommend, if possible, if it's your second or third home, you have a caretaker or somebody to come in, check the house bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is, just to make sure something did happen. You want to, mitigate as soon as possible, and just a set of eyes on it is always great. Somebody you trust, or I know you guys provide that service for some of your clients. So, taking care of that situation.
Yeah, it has shifted. The demographics of the place, of the shoreline, is they're getting more and more turned into year round, but there still are those cottages with the propane tanks,
right?
And also,
and no heat. Some of them have even no heat.
Yeah.
So they have to be winterized, and some people just turn it off at the main rather than actually drain the pipes and everything, and that's where you run into a problem. And then sometimes those mains freeze, and then that's when we have to call ServiceMaster.
Yeah. So any joint in your heating system or domestic water line that freezes, water expands. That's why concrete cracks, down the sidewalks. So that'll continue to weaken those joints over the years. It may not happen in one winter, but over 4 or 5 years of that fluctuation of cold and heat will cause you some pretty severe damage, no question.
So when my kids were little, and I used to have to run the humidifier when they were sick, I would get like this mold on the ceiling. And so I would get up there and spray bleach on it and clean it. Is that like dangerous mold? Is that something I should have been like freaking out about with my kids? I mean, because there's all different kinds of mold, and it's a big deal when we're selling houses. Mold is, a big issue. So how is there a way for someone who isn't an expert to say, I need to get an expert for this mold?
Yeah. So microbial growth and its effects is very individual. So, we may be in a space where Clark's has his eyes are running, nose is, running, and Denise, you and I are like, man, what's your deal? And so it's very individual. But when we talk about remediation or dealing with the mold, anything under 10 square feet of visible growth. So if you take a door, cut it in half, you can use a soap and water solution to address that. And just a quick visual, or use your imagination. Think of a mold under a microscope like a dandelion. So it has a seed, a body, and a root system. So if we don't want those seeds to, blow all over the yard and have, a field of yellow dandelions 2 days later, what we want to do is take your soap and water solution, and then you're going to be blotting the visible growth. So the spores get trapped in your towel and do not get a chance to become airborne. And that's for small areas. And then and then it's a question of, okay, how far is it expanded? What spores are in the air that we can't see? When we have visible growth, that's one thing, but there could be times where you have a higher spore count in the air in an area that there's no visible growth. So what do? That's where air sampling and testing comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're seeing that an increase, both of us, but I do a lot of bank work in the, it's probably not the right word, the chemical approach as opposed to the tear it down approach for dealing with discoloration, which is, when it gets into a vacant house and all. Do you see that for yourself?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a remove and replace under proper containment and, negative air, utilizing HEPA filtration through the project.
Now, we've done a lot of different things with our experts. The thing I like the most, which I didn't tell Denise going into it, is what's the weirdest fill in the blank thing that you run into with a house in the area, leaving out names and addresses.
Yeah. Well, this is a family program, so I will.
Yes, please. I know some of the things you guys have done. I don't want to hear about those.
Okay. We done some tough things, but we did a project out in, Windham, Connecticut area. The apartment was for sale. This apartment was on the end of the sewer line. So you have 40 apartments that are all feeding down, and gravity works its magic. The house was in transition. The previous people had moved out, and new tenants came in, and it looked like somebody grenaded the house with septic. So toilets exploded. We had fragments of toilet bowl stuck in the ceiling.
Toilet actually exploded?
It basically looked like somebody threw a grenade in there, and you had feet of whatever the 40 people up the hill had for the last week. So.
Remember the Monty Python? One more mint.
Oh my gosh.
So we run it. Yeah, that was hard to explain to the insurance agent or the insurance company who didn't want to come into the property. What caused it? So I mean that was
wrong line of work.
Yeah.
Wrong line of work.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you very much for joining us. We just do a 20-minute real estate briefing, and of course, we always go a little bit over, but we appreciate the information you've given us.
Yeah.
I think we'll have you back for sure if you're interested, because we can, talk about a lot of different type things that you do besides water and mold. But we appreciate you coming and joining us.
Definitely. And if you guys or your clients have any questions, we're a phone call away. It's not necessarily need a visit, but hey, this is the situation.
Cool.
Yeah, the phone call is great, and
I can tell you, knowing, having done business with them, that everyone that answers the phone there and everyone that does everything is really helpful with just answering questions, and also just as a pat on the back, ServiceMaster by Mason are very, very do a lot for the community as a whole.
Yeah, you fit in with what we've been building, which is the idea of, hey, here's some experts, get yourself a team, and then use them as appropriate, and everything follows from that.
So we really appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
What do we do next?
Have a good night.
Yeah,
see you later.
Bye. So just to finish up, we are on Facebook and we are on YouTube.
Oh, yes, I'm supposed to say yes.
Yes, we are. And please subscribe, and also to like us on Facebook and check us out on Instagram. And if you have any questions, or you have an expert you'd like us to bring on the show that you'd like to question, or if you have an idea for the show, give us a message.
You want to be a guest on the show?
You can, if you want to be a guest on the show. And if you are a guest on the show, share us on your Facebook page.
We could do an expert buyer.
Why we have an expert buyer, someone who's bought so many times that they're an expert. Does this make sense? All right. So catch us next week. We are on every Wednesday at 5:30 in the evening. So hope to see you then.
Okay, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.